Welcome to No Room for Phonies,
Episode 79.
the last episode of 2022.
And the title is?
Top headlines from 2022. So
right,
the
pretty
green light
honest.
moment, when I was a leader, like when I was a principal, everyone said, oh, you have to build trust and you have to build trust and you have to, that was the big
Leadership
yeah,
mantra of the
yeah,
day.
yeah. And so I read this about what is trust, and I really like this definition. So trust is generosity, which means giving up resources for the whole.
Okay. Like for the good of the whole?
Yes.
Got it.
Trust is humility, giving up your own importance, position, and power for the
Okay.
good of the whole,
Yeah.
obviously. And integrity, truthfulness, so that others can depend on your character.
Right. So you did that for them as a leader, but you couldn't trust them as a group.
Well, and
Not all.
not all of them, but I'm just saying, like, it's a lot different than, the kind of trust that some people want, where they
It's
get what they
blind.
want,
Right.
right? Like, this is actually truthfulness, like working hard to make sure everything is good for the people, for the institution, like the
Right.
people who are your clients, not necessarily the people who are working
There.
in it. They should have this
It's the same level
of trust. So anyway, I just thought it was good. And then for a book recommendation, I want to recommend Unthinkable: Trauma, Truth, and the Trials of American Democracy. And it's written by Jamie Raskin, who was, he led the second impeachment of Trump.
And he's on the January 6th.
Yeah, he
hearings.
actually was the person that talked about what the charges would be, because he is a professor of constitutional law.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it's a remarkable story. I don't want to give too much away.
Well,
There's
no.
a lot to it.
Yeah.
And then as a podcast recommendation, the podcast I'm recommending is called Can I Tell You a Secret? All too often, true crime tales fall into the trap of lingering over details of the awful incidents they're covering, rather than giving sufficient time and respect to their victims. And it's not so with this journalist. Sarin Kale's 6-part true crime tale about Matthew Hardy, who spent more than a decade stalking women online. This deep dive saw her tour the country to speak to recipients of his campaign of online harassment, creating a vivid human portrait of the souls affected.
Wow.
So it's, yeah. Anyway.
Have you already heard the episode?
Yeah, it's very good.
Is it more than one episode?
Yeah,
Oh,
it's whatever I said, however
series.
many.
Okay.
So anyway, I recommend that one just as a good story.
Mm-hmm.
All right, so now we're going to compare headlines, you and I.
All right. I don't know if we're comparing. Well, yeah.
Well, yeah.
listing.
Well, if I say something that you have, you're going
then
to...
I'm going to have to say.
Yeah, and we'll
Jinx.
talk about it a little bit. Jinx, yeah. So my first top, and these are in no particular importance or order or anything.
Right.
Top headlines from 2022, and I think the war in Ukraine, for me, although we don't hear about it, I don't think, as much now as we did in the beginning.
But it's still going on.
And if you want to watch something interesting, who's the guy with the beard? What's his name? David.
David.
I don't remember. Anyway,
We should really know.
Yeah, we should.
Famous night show talk host.
Tacos. Anyway, he went to Ukraine and interviewed David Letterman went to Ukraine and interviewed him in a Zelensky in a subway station,
which
like
are
underground.
which are serving as bomb shelters.
Yes.
Yeah.
So anyway, that was very interesting.
I have slightly related, just that the president, Volodymyr Zelensky, was named Person of the Year by Time magazine.
Right.
Yep.
So, and his wife came to the United States and met with the president
And spoke to Congress. And
yeah. So, and then my second headline is the dropping of COVID-19 restrictions pretty much around the world in 2022.
Yep.
Like I've had my 5th vaccination.
And we both caught COVID in April.
Yeah,
that was.
like back then.
A milder case.
But when you look around at the world now.
Well, in China, there was back in lockdown again, and
Yeah.
their numbers are rising again because I don't think they've been able to vaccinate
Yeah.
very well.
And their vaccine wasn't considered that great.
Effective.
Effective in the beginning.
So are we going alternate every other person?
Yeah. So yeah.
So
no.
you've done 2. Well,
I thought you said that yours was.
Oh yeah, so that
right,
counts as
person
mine.
of the year,
Yeah.
right?
Okay, so
So
my
then-
second one is that in Ontario, British Columbia, Saskatchewan, Manitoba, doctors can now prescribe a Parks Canada Discovery Pass worth $70 to their patients to get people into nature for 2 hours per week for mental health restoration.
Wow.
So you can go to your doctor and say, I'm depressed, I need to be outside. Could you prescribe this pass? And then you can get the pass for
That's
$70.
very interesting. Wow. So my next one is that is a little depressing about
Well,
in a kind of it's about the Amazon rainforest. Deforestation is actually dire, considered to be dire. So
they've continued to deforest it.
It's just continued to be dire.
We're not doing too great in Canada with deforestation.
No,
either.
I don't think so either, but it's dire.
All right. Well, on a positive note,
From dire to positive.
the world surpassed 1 terawatt of installed solar energy capacity. So there's enough solar panels, whatever, worldwide for 1 terawatt. That is enough to meet the electricity demands of nearly every European country combined for a year.
Wow.
Yeah. I mean, they're not all in Europe, so obviously,
No,
but that's
right.
how much electricity
There is available.
including all of their industrial needs.
Wow.
Yep.
Okay, for me, number 4, a headline of this year is like the price of houses, the cost of living, the gas and grocery prices. I mean, this is
And
it's a
I don't
huge
know about
impact.
in the States, but in Canada, the grocery store is gouging people and artificially inflating
And
prices.
interestingly enough, when asked about that, Chrystia Freeland would not answer that question on
No, because she's
CBC.
buddy with
'Cause she was-
Loblaw's president.
That was like,
CEO.
are you going to speak to Loblaws about the gouging? And she did not answer the question. She completely, which I was a little disappointed because I really like Chrystia Freeland.
Yeah.
I think she's very smart.
Well, she should have said we would be approaching all main grocery store owners, not just Loblaws.
Yeah. So, but anyway, I feel that's a big headline because it's impacting particularly an age group like in the 20-30 range, people who are trying to,
And
So-
and those who want to eat healthy, it impacts. I mean,
and for people like us who have to buy certain things,
Yeah.
it does have an impact. So, yeah.
okay.
Oat milk is cheap, though. If you want to drink oat milk,
That's the cheapest.
it is the cheapest milk.
All right. So I found this interesting. Ketanji Brown Jackson is the first Black woman ever to sit on the U.S. Supreme Court, and she was appointed in 2022.
Wow. That's wow.
Yeah.
Cool. And then, of course, I did Queen Elizabeth, 70 years on the throne, and then her death, and then King Charles ascending the throne. I mean, I don't think his actual coronation will be probably next year, right?
Yeah.
Well, it will obviously be next
It'll
year.
be next year
So
sometime.
anyway, I thought that was a big headline of the year.
Yeah. So here's another environmental one. So the open source seed initiative to combat monopolies and improve biodiversity has been started by farmers worldwide because there's just a few main companies that own all the seeds used for commercial food growth.
Wow.
And they're monopolies and they're gouging as well because they're monopolies.
Right.
And they all use the same seeds for like wheat and corn, whatever.
Right.
So now farmers are going back to older seeds and biodiverse seeds, and they're keeping an open source collection of these.
Wow.
So you can
just
seeds
exchange and
yeah. So it's going to
that's
be
pretty
really
smart.
good. Like all the bananas are dying, right? Because
Right.
we haven't had biodiversity on them, and they're all coming from the same banana.
Oh.
Like all the banana plantations.
Like all the amazing things that we can do in this world, and that's what we.
But they made them all for for size and growth,
Right.
And
Yeah.
whatever. So
And now we're finding that's interesting. Okay, so my next one is the whole upheaval in the UK with Boris Johnson resigning and then the new person stepping in, and then now she
resigned.
resigned. Now there's a new person. Like, that's a lot of upheaval in the UK.
Yeah. All in 1 year.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, so I thought some Canadian municipalities should think of this. In Barcelona, in Spain, they give a 3-year free public transit pass to residents who give up their gasoline or diesel vehicles.
Oh.
I mean, it's a big city, so they all can.
But like a place like...
And they have good subways and buses,
right.
not like Toronto. And
yeah.
and nothing like here.
Mm-hmm. That's pretty cool.
But for 3 years, they
planned this,
yes.
right? And it makes sense for people.
Yeah, I thought that was cool.
That's cool. And then I did the Elon Musk taking over Twitter.
Oh, yeah. That's a big headline.
That was a big headline. So...
Yep. What else do I have here? Oh, in Switzerland, some scientists have made windows that generate electricity.
Oh.
They cover the windows with this paint that generates electricity, and then they harvest it to put energy into the homes.
Wow. All right. And then I just put the January 6th hearings.
Yeah.
Because...
Well, let's hope they arrest that guy.
I hope, just the sheer volume of evidence and the way that I thought that they were brilliantly, like, to me, it was the first time that they used such a combination of like video testimony and like, we haven't seen that before in other hearings that in the States. It's all been like the physical person in the room, and they did have those.
Yes, but because of COVID lockdowns,
they
had
lot
to do so
of,
much
and just
video
the fact that everything in the world, like, it doesn't matter what you do, it's videoed.
Yeah.
And so they had all this footage
from
that people,
and,
that they got a hold of, and
police cameras.
Yeah, and I thought they used it really well.
Yeah.
Like, they used it really well. And then, okay, so yours now. Sorry.
So, so in Canada, there's been a movement amongst young women claiming that there's period poverty because they can't afford menstrual products. So Ontario government has joined Shoppers Drug Mart to provide free products in all public schools.
Really?
Yep.
That's interesting. Okay. In all public schools.
Schools in Ontario.
This is where I think that the old days of the neediest schools getting some extra stuff made sense.
Yeah.
But anyway, because the children at some of the schools I taught
at the affluent schools, they don't need to have that paid for.
They don't really need that.
But you don't know in a given school.
No, you don't.
Who's needy.
And there would have been kids that did, but
Yeah.
I think the Pope meeting with the Indigenous people was like quite.
It's important.
It's important.
I don't know if it accomplished what the Indigenous people wanted, but
we were talking about that actually today. We had my quilting group here, and we were talking about mental health and what would have really actually helped Indigenous people over all of this. Like, what does reconciliation really mean? And did everything, do we go far enough? And why did the federal government put a lawsuit in and not just pay, and that money actually doesn't solve it.
Right.
So anyway, I thought that it's
the Truth and Reconciliation list that the Indigenous groups across Canada are monitoring, right? They're monitoring which ones have been fulfilled and which ones have not.
Yeah, of course they are.
Yeah.
Of course.
And it's a publicized,
and so
it's a yellow or an orange.
Yeah, it's a
page.
document. Yeah. So that was my ninth one.
All right. In Montreal, at the moment, there's one company that has 4 rooftop greenhouses.
Oh, I know. That should be happening.
And they feed that. You know how we had that subscription basket? Mm-hmm. They have 24,000 baskets per week going with fresh picked vegetables.
From their rooftop gardens.
From
Like they're all,
just 4 buildings at the moment. And
And
this
they
is one
have-
company. There's other companies.
and they have like they're obviously greenhouses.
Yes, so it's for the winter, but they
Mhm.
use the energy in the building, like some of it, the exhaust
to-
heat and whatever.
Right, because there's a lot of
they-
energy expelled from a
Yeah, especially, heaters, like
Yeah.
whatever. So yeah, I
That's
just thought
pretty
that's a lot
cool.
of baskets
Yeah.
of vegetables.
We could have that around here. We've got
Oh,
enough
yeah.
tall buildings.
Yep.
And think of the poverty in just even providing fresh.
Well, all the
Uh,
lettuce prices.
Yeah. Oh my gosh.
So are we at the last one now? I
I'm
think,
at
right?
my last
Yeah,
one.
I do too.
So Moderna trialed an HIV vaccine
Oh,
in 2022.
wow. They've trialed it or they've released
Trialed
it?
it.
Okay.
So that's pretty cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like to eradicate that. I mean, I know there's treatments and people don't die of it and all that stuff, but
Mm-hmm.
it is a bit of a game changer to have a vaccine.
Yeah.
So
Amazing. Oh, just as offhand, I've heard they're close to the vaccine for Lyme's disease.
wow, that's a game changer.
Yeah.
Because that's an
Yeah.
that's a tough
So
one.
my last one is about this company I found out about called Gastromotiva. They're originally Brazilian, and they provide free online and in-person courses for restaurant cooking, kitchen assistant training, and food entrepreneurship, all focusing on nutrition. The students apply online, and after they finish the program, they find jobs, but they often start their own restaurants and soup kitchens, some of them.
Wow.
And in 2022, 80,000 free meals are distributed to hungry families in Rio de Janeiro every month in their shanty towns. And the program has expanded to Cape Town, South Africa, Mexico City, and El Salvador.
Wow.
So,
Well,
and it's all this vision of this
hear-
one guy.
Right. But we did hear like there were 421 something meals served on
in
in Welland
Yeah.
to people.
Mm-hmm.
So I think we are getting smarter. So I added a little twist.
All right.
The top 10 headlines in our house for us.
For us.
So here's the twist. So these are mine. You can agree or disagree. That we are officially empty nesting in 2022.
I can say I agree.
You agree with that? Your surgery, which you already talked about,
Yes,
and recovery.
and
So
recovery's
that's a
fine.
big headline.
Yeah.
I haven't talked much about this, but I had a misdiagnosis of Crohn's disease and found out that I have latent TB, which I'm treating at the moment.
Yep.
So that was a pretty big headline for.
And you don't have Crohn's.
I don't have Crohn's disease.
Just mild inflammation.
And I would just highly recommend that when you get a diagnosis that doesn't make sense for your body, that you get out of Niagara and find someone who knows something like
Mm-hmm.
McMaster or Toronto in order to be sure and not to just accept a
A first
bunch of
diagnosis.
heavy duty medication, which is the direction I
Yeah.
was headed
Yep.
before I
Got a second opinion.
got a second opinion. That
Is that
would
all one headline? Our
yes,
health?
that was no. It was.
Okay.
I'm on 4. That we have really converted to a 90% sugar-free and anti-inflammatory food diet.
Yes.
At least 90%.
Even during Christmas, we were pretty close to
pretty
90%.
close. I mean, some of my baking is not as my baking really isn't as sugary.
No.
Some of it is, but
Some of it
whatever.
is, but
A new job experience for you, like
yes,
as
I'm
part
acting
as
associate
acting
dean.
associate dean. I read 120 books this year,
That's a headline.
so that's pretty good.
I did not read 120 books.
Yeah. So I also think it's a headline that we're investing time and money in fitness and bike riding.
Absolutely.
Like we bought new bikes this year.
we bought
and-
new microphones for the podcast.
Yeah,
that's a headline.
true. That didn't become investing time and money in our hobbies, maybe, right? And then we have been investing time in little people, friends. Like
Yep.
we have our little Mason and Charlotte and other people that we're investing time with little people. And I knit a sock each month. You can't enjoy that headline.
I knit a sock each month for 5 months.
Yeah, you did not.
I finished a huge crochet blanket.
And then
My first blanket
I
ever.
think just going into the new year that we are going to try to have board game nights here, like
That'd be
just
fun.
with varieties of people. And that just as a little
And
segue.
we might be teaching knitting and crochet.
Yeah, we might be, but yes, we might. And the other thing that we have worked on is having podcast guests.
Right.
So this is the moment when we are announcing our first guest is Shauna Gupta, right?
Yep.
And I've entitled hers Transform Your Life in 2023.
Nice title.
I think that fits what she does. And so Shauna is a mindset and dream builder coach.
Mm-hmm.
So we're going to be publishing on the 15th our conversation with her, and her website is shaunaalexandria.com.
Okay.
And I will put that in the show notes so that you can maybe check out her website. I know she has a course coming up like in the first part of January, so you can see all that on her website.
Mm-hmm.
But we had a really nice evening, like we pre-recorded it, obviously. We had a great evening together, and she has some really right on and fascinating ideas. So I hope you tune in on January 15th. So that's it for the headlines of 2022, both outside our home and inside our home. Was there any other headline that you felt I should share?
I just thought we could, for the YouTube viewers, we could just wish you a happy 2023. Well, for the audio people too.
Yeah, 2023 is now, 2022 will be in the books 2 days, a day after we push this out.
Yep.
And so it's Happy New Year 2023. So thanks for joining us for No Room for Phonies.
Episode 79, the top news headlines of the year.